something that we often do and probably don't realize it. And that is we grab on to advice that matches what we already think. And then we push away anything that challenges what we think. And it's not because we're being difficult. It's not because we don't want to grow. It's because advice that stretches us usually doesn't feel comfortable at first. And discomfort can feel threatening. Without realizing it, we gravitate towards beliefs and explanations that match what we already think, even if those thoughts are keeping us stuck. If you feel deeply or you think deeply or you need things to make sense before you act, then this can be an even bigger struggle. You're used to checking in before making decisions, and that's a strength, but it can also make new wisdom and new thoughts feel kind of off, even when that's exactly what you need. Now, this lesson isn't about judgment, it's really about awareness and how awareness can open the doors to change. We prefer wisdom that agrees with us. There's safety in things being familiar. Advice that matches our opinions feels comforting, it feels validating, predictable, it feels right, emotionally familiar, and less risky. It feels easier because it doesn't force change. And wisdom that challenges us, even if it's exactly what we need, often feels uncomfortable, exposing, irritating, overwhelming, and unfamiliar. When something feels unfamiliar, then our instinct is to hide or run away and retreat. We automatically assume that comfort equals truth and discomfort equals danger. But that's not how growth works. Sometimes truth is going to feel uncomfortable. Sometimes the thing that we resist is actually the thing that we need the most. Imagine stepping on your bathroom scale and it's been acting up for a few weeks. Some mornings it flashes random numbers. Some days it doesn't turn on. You know that the batteries are low, but you haven't changed them yet. And one day you get on and it gives you a number that you like, a number that feels good, that feels right. And so you tell yourself, yeah, it's probably fine. It's close enough, even though you know it's not accurate. And then someone might come and say to you, oh, I think your scale is broken. And you kind of brush it off because you want that number to be true. And that's exactly what happens with our opinions and the advice that we resist. We cling to beliefs that feel familiar or comfortable, even when they're not helping us. And when someone says, hey, that seems kind of off, or they give us some guidance or perspective that could actually help, we push it away, not because it's wrong, but because it feels uncomfortable. Now, let's go back to the scale and you replace the batteries and suddenly the scale is working properly and gives a true reading of where you're at. And that's what happens when you open yourself to the wisdom that you've been avoiding. The advice that you've been resisting is like the new batteries. It's what lets you see clearly, to act effectively, and be able to move forward in your life and your health. Growth starts the moment you're willing to ask yourself, what if the scale I keep trusting is wrong? And the wisdom I've been avoiding is exactly what I need. Now, obviously, this is a metaphorical scale. What if what I keep trusting in my own beliefs is wrong? And the wisdom that I've been avoiding is exactly what I need. Now, you're not ignoring wisdom on purpose. You're not resisting guidance on purpose. But this pattern shows up in your life in a number of ways. Maybe you seek advice from people who think like you because it feels safer, it feels validating. The problem is that sameness isn't stretching you. You wait to feel motivated before acting. You put off action because you think you got to feel motivated first. But the motivation actually comes when you take action. You overthink and you get stuck in research or planning or creating charts. Clarity often comes through action, not just thinking. The research and the planning and the charts are great, but they're not great if you don't implement action with them. Maybe you get overwhelmed when there seems to be too many steps and you freeze instead of just taking that first small step and not looking at all the other steps you need to take. You retreat when things feel hard. Challenges, they feel threatening. And so a lot of times it's tempting to hide. It seems like it's easier. You prefer deep insight. And so then you struggle with daily consistency because that seems routine and mundane, and that can feel frustrating. You want to be able to understand the whole thing before you show up. You dismiss advice that maybe seems too simple. Sometimes, though, the simplest steps are the ones that are going to create the lasting change. You get irritated or defensive when someone offers a different perspective. And it's probably not because they're wrong per se, it's because to you it feels unfamiliar. So it feels annoying or like threatening. You explain away feedback that challenges your story. So this isn't necessarily stubbornness. It's really your critter brain trying to protect itself. Your critter brain doesn't want to be wrong. And you stick to familiar patterns, even when you know that they're not working. And then you end up working harder and harder and harder. But you're not going to overcome those old habit loops if nothing changes. You lean on old stories that hurt you, the ones that say, this is just the way I am. This never works for me. I already know how this is going to go. It feels safe, but it cages you in, keeps you stuck. And you prioritize comfort over growth. Choosing the familiar over the necessary keeps you stuck. And this doesn't mean that everything you're doing is wrong. It just means that your critter brain is really loud. And that's okay. But we have to teach our critter brain that real change comes from letting wisdom in, even when it doesn't feel perfect. When you only trust the beliefs that agree with your opinions, your growth is going to slow, and it'll show up in areas like difficulty making progress with your health goals, struggling to set or maintain boundaries. Relationships feel strained. You feel increased stress and overwhelm, and your habits and routines aren't supporting your goals. You feel like you're putting in effort, but you're staying stuck in the same patterns. It's like trying to build a house with someone else's blueprint. Their instructions are clear, but it's not matching the house that you want. So when you open yourself up to truth, even if it doesn't line up exactly with your current opinions, if you can open yourself up to the truth, things will shift and you lower your resistance to change. You soften, you receive more support and insight. You gain new options and solutions. You feel more capable navigating your challenges. Your world expands. So how do we start opening ourselves to challenging wisdom? First thing, pause before you reject anything. And I don't mean pause for 6 weeks. I just mean pause for a moment and ask yourself, why does this feel uncomfortable? Is it stretching me in a way that I need to be stretched? Try on a new perspective, like clothes in the dressing room. You don't have to commit or buy them. Just try them on, see how they feel, move around in them mentally, notice what fits and what doesn't. Or try the 5-day rule. Try the advice for 5 days, not perfectly, not dramatically, just enough to gather evidence before your mind or your critter brain talks you out of it. Let simple be enough. Simple, repeatable habits will change your life. And stop waiting until you feel motivated, in the mood, or ready. Most people who change didn't feel ready. They just started. Let discomfort be information. It's not a warning sign. It often points to the place where you need the most growth. Build a tolerance for discomfort. Discomfort does not equal danger. Often it equals growth. And practice curiosity. Ask yourself, what else could be true here? And curiosity leaves room for new truths. What if the wisdom that you're resisting is actually the wisdom that you need? And it's about becoming more open, not about becoming less of who you are. So you don't have to abandon your own intuition. That's important to still hold on to. That's why you're going to try the clothes on. You're going to try the 5-day rule. And then you use your intuition to see if that's going to work for you. It doesn't mean that you have to stop thinking deeply or stop feeling deeply. You still get to be who you are. You don't even have to completely shut down your critter brain because it's there for a purpose. The only problem is we've just let it run unchecked. So when you stop trusting the broken scale, when you stop trusting your thoughts and open yourself to the possibility of new thoughts, then you begin to stop repeating old patterns. You stop avoiding growth. You stop assuming that your first thought is the only right thought. You stop defending stories that hurt your growth, and you stop shrinking your potential. And then what you start to do is you build new habits. You see yourself more clearly. You respond instead of react. You feel more grounded. You see more growth. The growth is faster. You understand yourself more deeply, and you make lasting changes. Your world gets better, your options grow wider, and your life feels lighter. So instead of saying to yourself, I'm only going to listen to advice when it matches what I believe, instead try saying, I'm open to trying things that stretch me, even when they don't feel comfortable at first. Just be willing to be open. You don't lack willpower. You don't lack knowledge or motivation. You just have a comfort zone protecting you. Your critter brain is trying to keep you safe, and that's a gift. But one small step at a time is going to show your critter brain that new information is not a threat. It doesn't feel forced or overwhelming. So then it can relax instead of resisting. It's like easing a nervous animal into a new space. If you move too fast, the animal panics. But if you move slowly, the animal begins to trust. And the same is true for your critter brain. Gentle, gradual steps help it see that wisdom is safe. And over time, your critter brain will start supporting your growth instead of holding you back. You don't have to take it in all at once. I want you to just start with one small step at a time.